Iron Maiden are not rock and roll.
Yep.
Or at least they're clearly not as rock and roll as Missy Elliott. And while we metalheads of course can simply laugh at the whole fact that Iron Maiden were once again snubbed of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction this year, and I promise you we'll do that, but it also raises a couple of other problems for our favorite music that actually goes far beyond the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This year marked the second time Iron Maiden were nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and despite this whole little fact that they landed at number 4 of the fan vote with, hear me out, more than 400,000 votes. They still did not make a cut for the 2023 class of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and instead such artists as Kate Bush, Sheryl Crow, Missy Elliott, George Michael, Willie Nelson, Rage Against the Machine and a bunch of others will be celebrated this year for their achievements in the world of rock and roll.
Who wouldn't know rock and roll if it hit them in the face? They need to stop taking Prozac and start drinking fucking beer.
And just to be clear, as much as I would love to simply rant about this year's class, and especially after several sleepless nights here in Kyiv, Ukraine because of the constant air raid sirens, but I actually do not mean to undermine any other artists' achievements in this video, especially since I feel like I don't know enough about many of those artists' careers, although I still do know what rock and roll is. And some of the musicians on this year's list absolutely deserve it, especially someone like Lynn Cray, who was a huge influence on many heavy metal guitarists, and after whose son Ronnie James Dio of course named one of his early bands. But just to give you an idea that even if Iron Maiden would have made it into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, there would still be 3 times more rap and hip-hop artists already in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame than the bands which play heavy metal. As of today, there are still only 3 metal bands in the Rock Hall, those being Black Sabbath, Metallica, and Judas Priest. And of course, most of the people who are watching this video are Iron Maiden fans, or even if they don't listen to them on a regular basis, at least recognize Iron Maiden's contribution to the world of rock and roll and respect the legacy of this legendary band.
Exactly.
And thus, if we start analyzing the criteria which Rock and Roll Hall of Fame judges are supposed to make their decision on, such as, the longevity of the band's career, or their influence on other musicians, or for example, their legacy and contribution to the development of rock and roll, then we can of course all agree that out of all the musicians represented on this year's ballot, Iron Maiden are actually the only band which is not supposed to even be nominated, just because of the fact that they were supposed to be inducted 18 years earlier when they were first eligible. But let's not forget that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is actually a private institution, therefore they can recognize and induct anyone they want, which they actually do. So why should we care? What would change for us metalheads if Iron Maiden would have been inducted this year? Well, nothing. Just like last year's induction of Judas Priest, which by the way was even more overdue, did not change anything for me at all, as we all have loved and listened to Judas Priest and Iron Maiden long before that, and the fact that they are recognized by some mainstream institution will not change anything for us, the fans.
Yes, that's true.
And the truth is that we all know that Iron Maiden, no matter whether they want it or not, will eventually get in there. As it took Judas Priest, for example, 3 nominations to be inducted, and it was this year's heavy musician Rage Against the Machine's 5th time nominated, after which they finally made a cut. And here I feel like I really have to be honest with you guys, and I know that you might hate me for this, but I actually honestly believe that Rage Against the Machine is one of the most overrated bands in the world, and I never could understand all the hype around them.
What?
But at the same time, and I'll be honest with you, I did want Iron Maiden to get inducted this year, and there were at least 2 reasons for that. Number 1, and it is a very selfish one, Judas Priest's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was one of the hottest events in the world of heavy metal last year. And not really because they were finally recognized for their achievement, but because we saw a true celebration of everything Judas Priest have done throughout the years, as the band's full current lineup, including Richie Faulkner, who was not inducted this year, as well as the band's founding guitarist KK Downing and the band's legendary drummer Les Binks, reunited on stage to celebrate the 50 years of Judas Priest style heavy metal. If we take a look at this year's Iron Maiden nomination, we will see that in addition to the current lineup, we also have the late drummer Clive Burr, the guitarist Dennis Stratton, and the vocalist Paul Di'Anno nominated. And yes, I'm that selfish, and I would absolutely love to see the band performing their classics with Dennis and Paul on stage. And even more, I think it would be kick-ass if they would say and do exactly the same thing that Judas Priest did, and also invite Blaze Bayley on stage, who for some weird reason was not nominated this year, but was an essential part of this band's career.
Do you believe what you hear? Can you believe what you see? Do you believe what you feel? Can you believe?
And the second thing is that this induction is not really about Iron Maiden, as let's be honest here, the best recognition they've got is the sold-out stadiums all across the world.
I love my job.
But the truth is that our favorite bands, and God bless Iron Maiden, Metallica and Judas Priest, and I hope that they have another 50 years rocking this world. But let's be honest here, they're not getting any younger. And while neither metalheads nor their favorite bands need the mainstream recognition, it still puts our favorite genre on the spotlight for those who are outside of the heavy metal bubble. And yes, it is true that part of the whole appeal of metal for many was the fact that we kind of remain a cool group of outsiders. At least we're cool in our own eyes. But the truth is that viral clips on TikTok and Instagram and attention from some of the media sources are the only way for many kids all across the globe to get introduced to the world of heavy metal, as otherwise there is not even a slight chance most of them would be exposed to the world of our favorite music.
We are blood brothers!
And the funniest thing is that in our recent video on the origins of the new wave of British heavy metal, we just spoke about how by the late 70s many considered heavy metal to be a dying genre, despite there was a huge underground heavy metal scene grown right in the middle of the United Kingdom, which simply remained unnoticed and without any financial influxes before several heavy metal albums were able to grab attention of wider audiences. And so who knows, maybe if not for that brief mainstream spotlight, such bands as Iron Maiden would never be able to get a deal with a major record label, which would skyrocket not only theirs, but also the careers of many, many young heavy metal bands. And so here's the thing, while I, as a fan, absolutely do not care whether Iron Maiden ever gets into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and of course, as a fan, neither should you. But the truth is that the more young kids will play air guitar and imagine themselves as rock stars, the more young bands we will have in the genre, and the more chances there are that some of them will eventually make it. But anyways, what do you guys personally think about the 2023 class of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? And which other bands do you think should long have been inducted into this institution? Please say Motorhead.
Don't forget us. Our name is Motorhead. We play rock and roll.
Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I just wanted to let you know that only 30% of the people who are watching the Metal Pilgrim videos are actually subscribed to this channel. So if you still haven't done so yet, I'll be very, very thankful if you consider doing it right now. We will prevail. Slava Ukraini!